evening, everyone. I now call the meeting to order at 6:30 and note members present, staff, special guest, and our dear reporter, Daniel. I'll now read the land acknowledgement. We will begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathering on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people since time immemorial. We would like to recognize that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, and the land on which we are gathered today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. Specifically, we acknowledge the neighboring community of Mishpicot First Nation, for whom we have great respect. We also recognize the contributions of all Indigenous people, including the Métis, in shaping and strengthening the community in the province of Ontario. Number 2, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move to number 3. I need a mover to approve the agenda. Kathy, and a seconder. Joe? Show of hands. All in favor, thank you. Item number 4, we have a delegation presentation this evening from Mr. Gordon Draper for Community Living Algoma, looking for support for a proclamation. Thank you for joining us this evening, Mr. Draper. Whenever you're ready.
Use the mic to speak into so people can hear on the computer, and unfortunately your partner is not online yet. She's not there. Okay, are you okay?
Yeah. Could you get a copy of that so that you have it in the suit?
A copy of the proclamation?
Yeah, from what I said.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because that's what they asked me if they got all the stuff on it.
It's recorded live on YouTube. I'll send the link.
Okay, thank you.
And can you speak in the mic where council hear you if you don't mind, or I can give you this one if this is easier.
I think that one's easier.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Town Councilors and fellow community members. I am proud to stand before you as the proclamation is read announcing Community Living Awareness Month. I am Gordon Draper. I am here on behalf of Community Living Algoma. I am a member of the Council of Community Living Algoma. We are a group of individuals who speak out for change, advocating for ourselves and others, both within CLA and in the communities of Algoma. Community Living Algoma is a nonprofit charitable organization committed to the full inclusion and citizenship of people with intellectual disabilities. Now in our 69th year of operation, CLA provides support to over 728 children and adults across the District of Algoma. We are honored to share this recognition with you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. I still have more to read, John?
No, that's it, yeah.
Sorry. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Draper.
Okay,
We appreciate the time you took for us this evening.
no problem.
Are there any questions for Mr. Draper? We'll have a resolution on the regular council meeting tonight, if council agrees, which I'm sure they will. The request for the proclamation. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. You want to stand up and share your beautiful shirt with everyone that you're proud of?
Well, this is what I got in Southern Ontario when I was there with Nicole Clark. She drove out. There's supposed to be 2 other people in the truck. So.
It's a great sweater.
This is the hat too. I'll just spell it. It's probably easier.
Yeah, right on.
Very nice.
Okay. They're wonderful people. Like I was sworn in Thunder Bay, and they had a big powwow with the natives, and they're all across Canada. And the head guy down in Sioux John, okay, the guy and all the women I see, they're good too.
Well, thank you very much. And we'll make sure that if council passes the resolution, that you get a copy.
Okay, Nicole.
And Nicole gets a copy and everyone
Okay,
gets a
yeah.
copy. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can stay if you'd like, or you can leave if you want to stay for the council meeting.
Yeah, I got I got a minute appointment there. Unfortunately, I would stay.
No problem.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'll probably be here because I don't want to do, but I'll do this every time they ask me.
You're good.
So
We'll see you next year.
hopefully,
Item number 5, adoption of minutes of the meeting on March 21st, 2023. I need a mover and a seconder. Joe, move. Jim, second. All in favor? Thank you. Number 6, business arising at a previous meeting. Seeing none, moving on to new business. Item number 7.1, AOD open house waiver fees for Dollar Transit Bus. Maury, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. Before council is request from Andy Stevens, who's working in partnership with the Wawa Heritage Committee and the Wawa Age Friendly Committee. And he's looking for council support to host what he believes to be the last time he organizes an Algoma Ore Division open house. At that open house on April 18th at the community center, he's asking council to waive the fees for anyone who would want to use the municipal transit to attend the event. He does understand that the bus only operates till 2:45, but in that period, if council would consider waiving the fees, there's no charge to attend the open house. There'll be some displays reminiscing of former workers and those of us who remember the days that Algoma Ore was a major player in our economy. He wants to celebrate this open house and mining 100 years later after iron ore was discovered. So if council would agree, he's just looking for a motion of support to waive the transit.
Are there any questions? Is council in favor?
Yep.
We will have a resolution for the next regular council meeting tonight to accept the waiver of fees to them for the transit bus. Thanks, Mark. Next item, 7.2, drag story time request for support Global Public Library. Councilor Pato, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. Libraries clear across Ontario brought this drag story to almost every library. Now they want to do it like on one common day, because there has been protests and emails and everything. People are against it and for it, and it's become almost violent. So now the libraries across Ontario decided they're picking one day, and every library is going to do it on that day. The local library just looking for support. They like to do it like the other libraries. We need support from us to do it.
Thank you, Councilor Pato. Are there any questions from councilors? No? If the councilors want to support this, resolutions will go for the April 18th regular meeting. Item 7.3, amend policy HR 017, code of conduct for council and board committees. Laurie, could you speak to this, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Staff reviewed policy HR 017, which is approved by bylaw 3342, and we did that update in 2020. This is relating to the council code of conduct. There is a separate code of conduct for staff. So this relates to the code of conduct for council, committee, and board members. So it's specific to council. After review and comment from our Wawa Integrity Commissioner, within the bylaw, we are to review it annually and suggest to council any recommended changes. And in our review with the Wawa Integrity Commissioner and a publication from the Ontario Ombudsman, it was recommended that there be some changes to our existing policy, which would include the following two items. One, that it is recommended that no fees be charged to any member of the public who wanted to file any code of conduct complaint. Right now, our policy states that there is a $50 filing fee, and based on a review by the Integrity Commissioner and the Ombudsman of Ontario, that fee may act as a barrier for certain persons to make complaints, and it is recommended that council reduce the filing fee to zero to ensure that all our residents are able to make reasonable complaints, and that the fee charge not be an unfair deterrent for some. The second recommended change is relating to reducing the fee to zero. And that is that we ask that council consider giving our Integrity Commissioner the authority and the power to make decisions on what they call frivolous, vexatious, or complaints made in bad faith. So where there are complaints may be made against council or board members that aren't reasonable or made in bad faith, that we give the authority to our Integrity Commissioner to make those decisions. That's not in our existing policy. So that is highly recommended if we are going to drop the fee to zero as a way to make sure that there aren't a multitude of complaints that are made in bad faith coming because the fee is zero. So both are recommended changes to the policy. And the third item, sorry, I said two items. Should have read my own memo. There's a third item, and that has to do with the limitation period. And it's just some clarification on wording within our code of conduct. And the policy right now states that complaints must be made after 60 days of date when the matter of complaint was discovered. So you essentially only have 2 months to make a filing of complaint. But to ensure our policy is flexible and gives clear authority to the Integrity Commissioner, we recommend the following clause be added: that notwithstanding Section 7.1, which is the 60 days, the Integrity Commissioner may proceed with an inquiry related to any complaint that is filed after the expiry of the time limit if the Integrity Commissioner is satisfied that the delay was incurred in good faith, that it is in the public's interest to proceed with the inquiry, and that number 3, no substantial prejudice will result to any person that might be involved because of the delay. Again, this is a clarification on the timeline, which council would give the authority to the Integrity Commissioner to make decisions about complaints that may be received after the 60-day filing deadline. Again, this is to provide flexibility to the Integrity Commissioner and ultimately council or ratepayers who may come across something that is in the public's interest to bring forward after 60 days. So those are the 3 recommendations. They're put forth to council tonight for consideration and discussion and review. There is no bylaw on the agenda of the regular meeting. That would be brought forward subject to council input and review. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Are there any questions from the councillors?
No, I think she answered mine. I was worried about the 60 days.
So I understand, Maureen, we'll have a bylaw to amend on the April 18th. Thank you. 7.4. The RFP results 2023-04 MC Sports Field track replacement. Alex, it's your turn. Do you want to speak on this memo?
Sure. So this is a memo. I don't even know why I bothered. Let's try that one. All right, this is a memo with a recent RFP that we've done for the sports field track. As council may know, the sports field track was funded by the Ontario Trillium Program for $130,000. We received 4 proposals. You can see the prices indicated there. We scored the proposals with a staff team of Dan Beach and myself. And with the scoring of those proposals, the proposal from J Provo Contracting was the one that we're recommending as staff. That particular proposal had a couple different options in it, including the option to use recycled asphalt product. In discussion with Dan, because the Parks Department doesn't really have any experience with recycled asphalt, he believed that it was a suitable material. As well, that material came with a $45,000 cost decrease in their proposal. So there is some potential savings there. However, we want to ensure that that's actually going to be a good material for the track. So what we're asking for from council is to accept the proposal of J Provo Contracting and allow staff to enter into a stipulated price contract with the contractor, but we need to specify the material with them first before we move forward with the project. Any questions?
What was the original base or track supposed to be made out of?
As far as we can tell, the track was made out of cinder.
Well, is that the original track? No, I'm thinking, what's the new one?
Oh, the new one. Yeah, so when we spec'd the proposal, we spec'd it for 2 different types of gravel. So we spec'd it for a B gravel as a base to allow for drainage. And then we spec'd it with a washed crush, which is about a 12.5 millimeter stone to be packed as the top. So it would be like pretty similar to a crusher fine, but without the fines part of it.
And it'll stay compacted?
That's the idea. Absolutely. So the reground is a really interesting option for us. We've used on some of our roads, and compacted, it is more stable than a crusher fine or gravel. So between that and the cost savings, it might be a win-win for everybody. It's not a material that we've considered using before, because when I did the research on tracks, you don't really find any reground tracks, but to be honest, there's not too many gravel tracks anymore either. And any paved track was way out of our cost range for this group.
The reground asphalt, will they grind it even smaller?
I don't think it needs to be ground smaller as it is. I had a tiny bit of experience on the Tamarack Road because I was covering for Dan one of the weeks that they were working on that. And that packs to quite a flat base because it does already have some fines in it. So the reground is sort of a mixed material. It contains some coarser material and some fine material. And that seemed to work relatively well. What I need to double check is that the recycled asphalt product that they proposed in one of their options of their proposal would be substantially similar to the reground that we used on the road that the roads department has experience with and believes would make a good track material.
How fresh is this reground going to be? Because like Tamarack is falling apart, and so right now this year is terrible. Government roads the same way. They're finding it doesn't stay packed. And even now, look what happened in the Mission the other day. So I'm just worried. What I heard through the grapevine of people saying if you use too old of a regrind, it doesn't stand up the way it should.
I'm going to have to ask because it wasn't specified. So that's a really good point to see if that stock comes off of like a very recent road project, such as the school zone project, or something that was earlier, something that was later. So I'm not quite sure. I also need to talk to the IS staff to say, hey, is that something that we repair? Is it something that we don't have experience with? But one of the really important parts for us is that we can repair it ourselves with material that we can find that's readily accessible. The problem with the sinter track is there wasn't any sinter left for us to repair it with, so we don't want to run into the same problem a couple of years down the road by using too specific of a product.
That crush, the other option, crush, probably get anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Just like if you turn around and look at Tamarack this year, or Government Road, neither one is their winner really well. That's all.
Alex, when you put in for the grant, did you specify what you were going to use?
Didn't have to specify. I had to provide a quote. But as far as Trillium is concerned, as long as there's a track, we're not asking for more than $130,000. The specifics don't matter for them.
Yeah.
They leave it up to us for material and design and all those.
So you're going to make very sure, yeah, okay. I have some doubts. Yeah, the grind of pavement too, because I don't even know where you get it right now. Anyway, thanks.
How thick will the base be for the track?
So a foot in total, is what we're proposing to dig down. So the original proposal was a foot digging down, laying some geotextile, and then 6 inches of the bead gravel, and then 6 inches of the top layer, which originally was expected to be that lush crush.
The thing is with the track, I don't want to be nasty, but it won't have road traffic on it, so it should hold up.
And then using it in.
So if I may, Mayor, suggest to you that regardless whether we use the crush fines or the reground material, we are still recommending Provo be awarded the contract, and the resolution of support is on tonight's council regular meeting. Regardless of the material, we would still recommend that council support J. Provo Contracting be awarded the contract. And staff have heard the concerns, and we'll report back after review of council's concerns and the materials, and come back to council report on whether we proceed with the gravel or the reground based on the best materials for the use for the track. So if we could still recommend that Provo be awarded the contract, and staff will come back to address any concerns or speak more to the materials, if council would accept them.
Okay, so we'll have a resolution on the next regular council meeting tonight. Okay, just a second, I'd like to reread this. We'll have a resolution on the next regular council meeting tonight to support Alex's recommendation, and we'll have a bylaw prepared to enter an agreement with J. Provo Contracting on April 18th, and we'll have all the information there. Thank you. Is that okay with everyone? Did I-
Yeah. You'll find out more about the other stuff, and then we'll sign.
Item 7.5, staff report, age-friendly inclusive community grant program. Alex, it's you again. Go ahead.
Thank you. So we've identified a grant. It is called, as in the report, the Inclusive Communities Grant, that is specifically aimed at including seniors in our community in more activities. It relies on the age-friendly plan. So in consultation with the grant advisor, they basically said, don't put anything in this grant that you don't have full backup for in your age-friendly plan. That's the only thing that we really look at in terms of the backup for your community when you're submitting this grant. So staff reviewed the age-friendly plan. We reviewed it with the age-friendly committee as well, and came up with the recommendations in this report, which is to apply for 2 things. Number 1, an outdoor electronic billboard, and number 2, hiring a municipal age-friendly coordinator, which in the age-friendly plan is called a seniors advocate. So within the report, we've got a couple recommendations, but the main focus of this grant would be number 1 on communication and education, and number 2 on social participation and recreation. Obviously, the electronic board works the most on communication, whereas the age-friendly staff member would be working on communication as well, but also on outreach for seniors, programming for seniors, the sorts of things that people are coming to us looking for on a regular basis in the first place. And that could be anything from technology supports right through to making sure that the local service clubs are updated on what the municipality and other organizations are doing throughout the community for seniors. So it's a relatively simple grant, all things considered, but because this has gone through the age-friendly committee, and there's some folks on the age-friendly committee who are looking to make recommendations to council, which I think Councillor Hoffman will speak to. We prepared a report just so all of council is aware of what staff are recommending we apply for the grant, and we're looking for essentially staff council's direction to move forward with the grant application.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any questions for Alex? Councilor Cannon?
You have somebody in mind from the municipality that you want to, you say hire an age-friendly coordinator?
Yeah, so no particular staff member in our existing staff complement. We'd be looking outside of the existing staff for someone, and in particular, looking for somebody bilingual.
I didn't hear the last part of that.
In particular, looking for somebody bilingual.
Is there any other questions? We'll have a resolution to receive Alex's report for the next regular council meeting tonight. And we'll have another resolution to support the submission of the application on April 18th at the regular council meeting. Lori, is that okay? Thank you. Number 7.6, staff reports, graduated taxation in the commercial class. Real slow.
Good evening, thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this report is just to review what that is, and what we're asking for is that we remove it from our policies or discontinue the use of it. So as a part of the 1998 tax reforms, the province of Ontario introduced graduated tax rates as a tax policy option for municipalities under Section 314 of the Municipal Act. This option allows municipalities to set bands of assessed value within commercial and industrial classes. In Wawa's case, we do it only in the commercial class. Or in other terms, tax commercial and industrial properties at different rates depending on their current value assessment. So if you think back, MPAC assesses all the properties, MPAC determines what that property is worth. That's the current value assessment. So in the bands, in the commercial class, in the low band, for properties that are assessed, or for the first 50,000 of assessment, the property may be assessed at more than 50,000, but for the first 50,000 of assessment, we tax at 75% of the commercial rate. And the mid band, we tax the mid band, which is $50,001 to $100,000 of assessed value on property. We tax at 85% of the commercial rate, and on anything above 100,000 in assessed value, we currently tax at 100% of the commercial rate. So what we're asking is to remove the banding totally, and that all commercial properties are taxed at 100% of the commercial tax rate. So it's assumed that the intent of the policy way back when we introduced it, can't remember, I think it was 1998, was 2001, I believe, is when we introduced it. So I think the intent at that time was to create a little bit of a buffer for small businesses and to help them out, giving them a lower tax rate. And what that does is it redistributes the taxes within the class. So it doesn't mean that we lose any taxes, it just means that other properties within that commercial class are picking up the cost of the tax rate that those lower assessed properties are getting. So there's no way to determine whether or not it's actually helping small business owners. So the intent is to help small business owners, but a small business owner could still own a property that's worth a lot more. A small business owner could own a property that has an assessed value of $200,000, or a large corporation could have a property that's assessed at under $50,000. So there's no way to determine that equity that was assumed would happen is actually happening. And so there's also a cost in administering the banding. It doesn't work well with current software. It doesn't work well with any softwares. So we do a lot of manual type testing to make sure that everything is working right. So we really would like to see it removed in the 2024 tax year. So it's not going to affect the 2023, but if you remember, we're going to start early working on 24 and beyond. So we'd like to have some of these options and policies taken care of before we start, so we know the numbers that we're dealing with. So our request of council is that council recommends the discontinuation of the practice of establishing these bands of assessment within the commercial property beginning in the 2024 tax year. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Manuela. Are there any questions for Manuela? Kathy? Councilor Kennedy?
Okay, maybe I'm not getting it. Did we not just pass a bylaw for
Yes.
these vans?
For 2023. So we're requesting that starting in 2024, we no longer follow this practice.
I got it.
Any other questions?
She got it on.
So we'll have a resolution to receive Monroe's report for the next regular council meeting tonight.
Thank you.
And we will have another resolution to support the recommendations for the regular council meeting on April 18th. Thank you. Last item under new business. Grant for charging station, the transit bus. I think Becca, you're going to speak about it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So recently there's been quite a few sort of funding opportunities that have come both provincially and federally to look at electrifying municipal fleets in transit. And so something that particularly interested municipal staff was taking a look at our existing transit bus and its ridership, its current hours and levels of service, and sort of some of the miscellaneous expenses that come with owning a minibus. And so we think this is really on brand with, that moving to the net zero for our carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions, where there are opportunities to purchase a high capacity electric van that would have modular seating, which is really interesting, and a rear lift for accessibility purposes. So to give you an idea of the body style, it's kind of similar to what Michigan Cotton has, the larger van that's a higher capacity. However, this van, which is one of the Ford E-Transit series vans, has a modular seating model where in the floor, we can move seating around so that you could accommodate, say, 6 passengers in a wheelchair in the back, or if you have 2 passengers in wheelchairs, we can actually remove seats entirely and accommodate 2 passengers in a wheelchair. We can move the floor plan around even in the van, just to accommodate different passenger needs and things like that. And so with this van, it would require only a G license to run, which would allow us to expand our hours of operation. Right now, we are kind of at the mercy of specialty license holders and their ability to operate the minibus during the hours that they're not operating buses for our local schools. So that's why our hours of operation are so small. They're sort of, as I was mentioning, there's a bunch of different, oh my goodness, this is my favorite thought. A bunch of different funding initiatives. So one of them is the Rural Transit Solutions Fund. It covers up to 80% of the cost of a bus and its associated infrastructure. And we have the ability to house the van. So that would just basically addressing the van and the charging station and its installation. It's kind of nice because the van, when not used overnight, can sit and charge all night. So worries about charging times and things like that are alleviated. So 80% comes from that fund, and then the additional 20 we're allowed to staff. So that would come from our gas tax funding that we already have, where we have to spend it on public transit. So again, it's not going to really affect our tax base, but then it's also going to be able to allow us to open up our services to a more diverse group for longer hours. So I just kind of gave a quick breakdown of different quotes that we received for both the bus and the charging stations. Move Mobility is the only Canadian company that has an electric bus. Looking at the Creative Bus Sales and out of Michigan, I believe they're Michigan. They have a similar price, but it's in US dollars, and then of course you have to import it, and there's taxes associated with that. So we're hoping that council supports our pursuit in trying to diversify our public transit a little bit, open it up for more people, and based on ridership, it makes a lot of sense to go this way. We don't need a bus that holds 18 people. So we're hoping that you guys support us and that we can continue moving on with this initiative.
Thanks for that memo, Becca. Are there any questions, Rebecca? Councilor Karen?
I just have one. This is a really good idea. Where would the charging station go?
We're looking at housing it at our municipal shop as a potential location and or at the airport, just somewhere that's sort of more easily accessible for the driver if and when they need to access the bus. Because we'll maintain the on-demand service. So just trying to make sure that there's somewhere for them to go when they have to pick up the bus.
So who do we, we're involved with Wawa right now, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
So who owns that bus?
Thank you, Councillor Hoffman. Municipality Wawa owns that bus, and we've contracted out the service to the bus operator. So they are our contractor operating the bus on behalf of the municipality. So if we move forward with this, we would have to revisit that agreement, and it may be restructured or maybe looked at in terms of service a whole different way. But at the current time,
So we may then, the driver may work for us.
yeah, we'll be looking at different models of what might work best. It may be contractor, it may be an employee, maybe different models altogether. But we don't anticipate, once we apply for the grant and purchasing, that we might bring something to your attention maybe by the fall, by the time we get through all the steps. And we will come back with a recommendation how to move forward.
I like it.
Would we would sell the other one?
Yeah, we'd be looking to get rid of the minibus for sure.
Okay, Lori, can we have a resolution to support this for the April 18th regular council meeting? Thank you. Moving into item number 8, there are none. Moving on to number 9, business arising from closed session. There are none. We'll move on to the next item 10, meeting date. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 18th at 6:30 p.m. Last item, adjournment. Close the meeting. I need a mover to close the meeting at 7:07. Joe, Mr. Councilor Prado. Thank you. We'll take a minute. All in favor? Sorry. Thank you. We'll take a minute to move on to the regular council meeting. Thank you very much. We will open the regular meeting at 7:08, and no members are present, and Daniel's around with us. Thank you. Item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Are there any disclosures? Seeing none, move on to item number 3. Approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Pato, second by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 be approved as presented.
Everyone in favor? Thank you. All carried. All in favor, carried. Number 4, delegations and presentations. Seeing none, we'll move into number 5, announcements. Are there any announcements? Kathy, can you maybe touch on the supper last night we had? Or Jim? I can speak about it too. I do happen to know the chief, and I was thrilled. The supper was beautiful. The speeches were beautiful. The prayer was 10 minutes long. I wish I could have understood what he said, because it was, I'm sure it was lovely. And there was some drumming, but the drummers were from out of town, and they were really good, because I really liked it. We had Carol Hughes join us, and we had Mr. Austin. I can't pronounce his second name, sorry, Austin. And we just had a really nice supper. We presented the new chief and her council disabilities, and they were very appreciative. It was a very comfortable, wonderful night, and I enjoyed it, and I'm sure you all did. Thank you. Anybody else would like to say anything? Item number 6, adoption of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Pato, resolved that the following minutes of the meeting of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, as contained on pages 1 to 8, inclusive of the minute book.
All in favor? Carried. Number 7, correspondence. Are there any questions on the correspondence? Moving on to number 8, 8.1, approval of consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Pato, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda, items 8.2 to 8.5, be approved as recommended.
Are there any questions? Moving on to number 9, don't I ask for an approval? Approval of council, do I have to say?
All in favor?
carried?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't write that down. Okay. All carried?
All in favor?
All in favor. Oh my goodness, Daniel, I don't want to hear that. Okay, can you please tell me what number we're on? 9, thank you, Councillor. Staff reports, Maureen, to these resolutions.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Pato, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive staff reports AACC 2022-05, the 2022 post-election accessibility report, AP 2023-03, Age-Friendly Inclusive Communities Grant, MB 2023-07, Graduated Taxation in the Commercial Class, DB 2023-04, Grant for Charging Station Transit Bus.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 10, business arising at a previous meeting. Seeing none, move on to number 11. New business. Accept resignation from the Wawa Marina Advisory Committee. Maureen?
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, whereas the municipality of Wawa received notification from Mr. Matthew Newlands advising of his resignation from the Wawa Marina Advisory Committee. Now therefore be resolved, the Council Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby accept the resignation from the Wawa Marina Advisory Committee effective March 17th, 2023.
All in favor? Carried. Appoint a new member to the Wawa Marina Advisory Committee.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon, whereas the municipality of Wawa received notification by Mr. Scott Robinson advising of his interest to sit on the Wawa Marina Advisory Committee. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby appoint Mr. Scott Robinson to the Wawa Marina Advisory Committee effective March 17th, 2023.
All in favor? Item 11.3, staff recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, whereas the municipality of Wawa issued notice to bidders for the request for proposals to replace the running track in the sports field at the Mitchell Cotton Memorial Community Center, and whereas 4 proposals were received for providing the specified work in the replacement of the track field, and whereas the proposal from J. Provo Contracting Limited is the best and lowest bid for the designated project. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby accept staff recommendation from MOAP RFP results, RFP 2023-24, sports field track replacement, and award proposal to J. Provo Contracting for an upset limit of $148,000, $182.55, HST included, and furthermore, that the clerk be directed to prepare a bylaw to enter into a contract agreement with J. Provo Contracting for the next regular meeting on Tuesday, April 18, 2023.
All in favor? Carried. Accept staff's recommendation regarding changing to the policy.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Hoffman.
Am I reading the right one? 11.4.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just looking. Sorry, I'm just missing it. So if I may suggest a verbal motion, if I could have, we would ask for mover and seconder, and I would suggest the motion state resolve that municipal council of the corporation municipality Wawa hereby accept the staff recommendation according to memo CAO to amend the policy HR-07 and bring a bylaw forward to the April 18th meeting.
And that is for the code of conduct.
Yes. So you're essentially accepting the report and forwarding it to the April 18th meeting for bylaw.
Okay. All in favor?
Mover and seconder?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Mover, Jim. Seconder, Kathy. All in favor? Thank you. Item number 12, notice of motion. Seeing none, moving on to number 13, bylaws. Maureen,
Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, and that the deputy mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3589-23 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 4th day of April. Bylaw number 3590-23 to establish Wawa Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee for the municipality of Wawa. And bylaw number 3591-23 to enter into an agreement with the Ministry of Transportation to accommodate group education and enter driver interview session.
are there any questions? All in favor? Carried. Number 14, closed session. We will now move to the closed session for educating and training session for council members. Maureen, please read the resolution.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Hoffman, second by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that this committee proceed in camera at 7:18 p.m. in order to address the following matter pertaining to education or training session for council members, council staff relations policy. It's related to meeting of council for the purpose of educating or training the members.
And
All in favor?
all in favor? Thank you. Carried.
And we'll move to camera so I can see what's.
So I'm moving into item number 8.
We're going to move in camera on this.
Oh, okay. So I see what's that. Oh, thank you, everyone. Good enough.
All right. Okay.
Thanks, Jen. See you later.
See you then.
I didn't.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to number 8, there are none. Moving on to number 9, business arising from closed session. There are none. We're moving to the next item, number 10, meeting date. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 18th at 6:30 PM. Last item is the adjournment.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the meeting close at 8:29 PM.
All in favor? Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
You know, Sue does the